Rock climbing is one of the most dangerous sports of all time, and I wanted to throw myself into the extremes of it for a week and see how much I could improve. So this is what I looked like before, and I wanted to see if my body changes as well. Now there's a very good reason why I wanted to do this, because you might not know that much about rock climbing, and at this point, I didn't either. The biggest reason why I wanted to get good at this is because my girlfriend knows a lot about it, and I wanted to impress her. On top of that, apparently rock climbing takes a lot of strength. So what I'm doing right now might look a little weird. Apparently it's supposed to very quickly build a lot of forearm strength and balance. So every day I'd spend 1 hour crawling on my hands to see how I'd improve there as well. When I first got to the rock climbing gym, I noticed there were a bunch of levels ranging from 1 to 8. Level 1 being for beginners like me, and level 8 being so hard that if anyone could do it, everyone in the gym would notice. So I decided to work my way up and see how many levels I could accomplish during this week. I knew I would be able to impress my girlfriend if I were able to reach level 4. On the first day, I managed to complete a couple level 2s, and this is where I learned about the hardest part about rock climbing. But before I explain, it's important to take a look at this level 3 wall that I attempted after, because this is where I failed on day 1. But no matter what happened, I had a number of tricks up my sleeve. Yesterday, my forearms and fingers were so sore that I could barely move them. But today, I'm gonna go so hard that I'm not gonna be able to move tomorrow. But little did I know that the end of day 2 would come with a very unexpected twist. I started off the day attempting a level 3. Now, since not every wall is the same, some level 3s might be easier than others. I still hadn't done the yellow one that I failed yesterday, but I wanted to attempt a level 4. If you pay close attention, you can see what makes this course really difficult. For one, the rocks were much harder to hold on to. And on top of that, as you can see, I have to balance on the wall, otherwise I'm gonna fall off. I was far from getting the level 4, and just for fun, I tried to hold on to a level 5. Things weren't looking good, but then the most unexpected thing happened.
My girlfriend just broke up with me, so I'm hitting the gym.
All of a sudden, the sole reason of me wanting to do this challenge had faded just as fast as it came. At this point, I didn't have anything to turn to, and I didn't really know if I wanted to keep going. I gave it some thought before making up my mind on day 3 as to what I was gonna do. My sole motivation for doing this challenge had been to impress someone that I cared about, but I decided rather than giving up on this challenge, I was gonna do it to the best of my ability to prove to myself that I could. And for some reason, I woke up that day with a bit of motivation. The good news is I no longer felt the pressure to need to achieve a certain goal. I just did my best and kept moving forward, doing the exercises I told myself I'd do 3 days ago. And when I got to the rock climbing gym, I immediately started on a level 4. I didn't get this one, but I kept trying. Eventually, I got the skill to be able to jump up and grab the rock above me. And while I didn't end up completing that course, I tried another one and something crazy happened. I started off failing many times like I had every other day, but I told myself I was gonna do this one, so each time I fell, I got back up to try again. And eventually, I completed the challenge I wanted to do in the first place. It was time to take this further. So this is my friend who's a pretty good rock climber. So I wanted to see how I would do against him after only 4 days of practice. We started back at level 1, going up level by level. When we got to level 3, he chose to do that yellow one that I was struggling with earlier. And at this point, I was holding up well. My goal was to do just as good as him, if not beat him. Every level he'd done so far, I'd been able to do as well, but then it came to this one. This was the blue level 4 that I've been working on for days. He got it his first try, and I decided to give it a go. And as you can see, it took a lot of struggling through, but eventually I got it. But this is where it gets even better. He hopped on the orange one that I'd just done yesterday. And while it might look easy because the rocks are big, it's actually really difficult to hold on to. At this point, I was in the lead. Everything I'd worked for the past 4 days had come down to this moment. I just needed to do what I did yesterday. But if you thought it ended here, you're very wrong, because this is where it just begins. I reached out to my friend Alexander, who created a plan to help me improve even faster. I told him that now I wanted to accomplish a level 5 and I was gonna need his help. And he gave me 3 different things that I was gonna need to work on. The first being to practice falling. One of the things I found from the beginning was it was a little scary being at the top and looking down, despite there being mats all around. I needed to quickly get over that fear, then move on to the next step, which was building my finger strength. This was incredibly important because I quickly noticed there was a lot of rocks that I just wasn't strong enough to really hold on to. And while building strength is something that usually takes more than a couple days, I wanted to see how much I could improve. Right now, I could really only hang on for about 30 seconds, which is something I will test again later. And the final step of this plan was to learn from the best and watch some Olympic rock climbing to see what they do. I was blown away. The kind of walls these guys were able to climb was absolutely phenomenal. So I studied up and got ready to attempt a level 5 on the final day. When I tried this, one of two surprising things happened. The first was it felt easier than I expected, and the second was that I got invited to compete in something bigger. So the final thing I wanted to do before I headed down to join the competition of a lifetime was test my grip strength to see how much I had improved. The very first day I tried this exact exercise and only lasted 40 seconds. Now this is where things took a turn. Remember how I said I got invited to do a challenge? Well, I had no idea how much this challenge would end up changing the course of my training. So I flew down to San Francisco where I met up with my friend to do one of the hardest physical tests in the world. I started off by finding a massive rock.
There's no way this man can climb that. He thinks he's invincible. He ain't.
However, I quickly discovered this was no ordinary rock.
That's kind of dangerous to climb.
So with no rock walls around, we decided to try an insane fitness test to see if we'd qualify for the US Marines. It started with doing 87 push-ups as fast as possible. This is the time we need to beat to qualify.
7! You got it, baby! Let's go!
I managed to get it in a minute and a half, but Sean did it 10 seconds faster. The next challenge was to do 110 crunches.
I just kept hearing him going like, 1, 2, 3, and I was like, bro, I don't know what I'm at.
And the next challenge, while it isn't a formal part of the Marine fitness test, I thought would be really fun. And that's cold exposure.
This man does cold challenges for fun. I've never done this.
The last person to leave would win. But since it wasn't part of the challenge, I didn't give myself a point.
I'll be honest, that's not easy. You're shaking like a leaf.
The next challenge we needed to try was as many pull-ups in a row as possible.
We relocated to the gym to do the pull-ups.
First, we wanted to see what an average person can do, because in order to pass the Marine test, you only needed to do 5.
No, that's not a pull-up.
He ended up doing 8, and now it was Sean's turn to try. Keep in mind, when we looked this up, it said the maximum was 23. And by this point, he'd already done 19. And he kept going strong. He kept going, and by the end of it, did 30 pull-ups in a row. I had to beat that.
He actually just got to whip out like 40 right now.
By this point, it was pretty obvious both of us would easily qualify and pass the test. Right now, it was a competition between the two of us to see who could do it better. When I got to my 30th rep, I felt like my arms were gonna fall off and I could barely do another. But I gave it everything I got and finished with 33. But looking back at the footage, our form was kind of bad, so we called this one a draw. The final challenge that would determine everything was a 3-mile run. The time we had to beat was 27 minutes and 40 seconds. By the 10-minute mark, I was exhausted, but I was falling behind and I needed to push myself harder than I'd ever pushed myself before. After 21 minutes and 42 seconds, I had failed. My time came out to just over 23. I'd passed the test but failed the competition. I need to win, so I won't stop training until I do.